best athlete, but best fighter as possible, the more complete, well-rounded guy in that business. And yeah, that's the thing. It's very different now than before because before there was a lot of bad boys. There was a lot of
Yeah.
not a really great guys that was doing fighting, and there was calling extreme fighting and not mixed martial art. It's a big difference. For me, it's a big difference because before there was like fighters doing extreme fighting. Now it's athletes doing mixed martial art. It's a huge difference in my hair, and what it means, what the sport means.
He's wearing a T-shirt that says "Never Made."
I believe him. I think he's telling the truth.
All right, guys, welcome back to Never Made Weight. Today we got a legend in the house, all the way from Montreal, Quebec. Patrick, the Predator, Cote. Patrick, how's life treating you nowadays?
I'm good, man. I'm enjoying life. Play a lot of golf this summer, and yeah, man, stay in shape, taking care of my kids. It's all good.
It's a good time in Canada. It's so green right now over there, right?
It is. It is. Yeah, actually, it's pretty sunny since like 2 weeks now. We need rain, but that's okay. We can live without it.
Yeah, I mean, when the snow starts coming, it's pretty brutal. So I'm sure you
It
guys
is.
really enjoy this time.
It is. Yes.
How do you spend your time nowadays? What does a perfect day look like for you now? Work, training, family, broadcast?
Everything. Like I said, I'm doing what I love. I'm a full-time actor now. I'm still working for the UFC as a French commentator since 17 years. I'm a speaker. I do a lot of conference, around Quebec here, since like 6 or 7 years. My little son just got in school this year, so it's pretty fun. I have an older daughter too, so I'm spending time with my kids a lot, and trying to stay in shape for my wife. I have to still be in shape. She knew me when I was fighting and like fucking ripped, and now I have to be still beautiful for her.
You said color commentating for 17 years for the UFC?
Exactly. Yeah. Like I'm the French Joe Rogan. That's what
Yeah,
I
I
do.
know. I know you work for the French channel and you do the UFC for them, but I didn't know for 17 years.
Yeah. Our first show was in 2008. The first time the UFC came in Montreal here, and yeah, the rest is history, man. Since 2011, we do every show.
Well, that makes sense because Canadians love the UFC. Guys, to give you an idea of how long Patrick's been in this game, his
Oh
debut
yeah.
was against Quito Ortiz at UFC 50. 4-day notice, by the way. In
Yeah.
Atlantic City, right?
Atlantic City at Boardwalk. That was at the Boardwalk Hotel, I think so. Yeah, exactly. And yeah, actually, Matthews was fighting Georges St-Pierre too on the co-main event. So I can say that I'm from Quebec. I'm French Canadian, so this is like Georges St-Pierre world here. But I can say that GSP was on my co-main event once, at least. So that's good.
Hey, man. Well, that brings me to my next question, actually. How's your relationship with other Canadian MMA fighters?
Pretty good. Actually, my relationship with every fighters, I think so, and on the planet, it's good. I did travel a lot when I was fighting. Never had beef with anyone. I know I can go anywhere in Thailand, Australia, Brazil, and it's gonna be okay if I want to train anywhere over there. I have a friend, all around the world. You can love everybody, but it's in generally it's good, especially here in Canada. The French Canadian, there are not a lot of French Canadian who went in the UFC, especially now. There are only three right now. So we try to keep our relationship very tight together. We try to be very supportive. Even if we don't train at the same gym or something like that, doesn't matter. We represent the small connection of French Canadian in a huge American company.
Yeah, that's true, and I love to see it. In 2016, you mentioned that Canadian MMA wasn't what it was. How do you feel about it now? And actually, what did you mean by that? And how do you feel about it now? Is it better?
Actually, George and I, actually the first French Canadian, it was David Loiseau actually in the UFC. After that, George and I came in the UFC, and for sure, George is for me is the GOAT, is the best fighter in the history for many reasons, not just because what he did in this about fighting, but everything. It's a pure athlete, um, and you know, him and I, we're really proud that we uh, we did a good work to get involved in that sport, especially here in Canada. But when George, retired, I took my retirement at the same year, but that wasn't the same effect. So when George retired, um, it was a huge a huge down here in Canada for the popularity and something like that. We had a really really um, down road on the MMA Canada, and now it's good. It's better. Uh, we have a lot of great fighters from Canada. Really really good, and especially for on the female side too. So that's fun. That's fun because Jasmine Jasdovicius, she's violent. She's good, man. I really like Mike Malott. Mike Malott, I really like this guy. He's probably, for me, skills wise, probably the best Canadian in the roster right now. And I'm really, really happy to see like Eamon Zabi having so much potential because when you have a name like that,
Yeah.
you have a name like that on your shoulder. It's hard sometimes to perform.
Yes.
Remember Sergio Pettis and Anthony Pettis. Sergio in the UFC didn't have the success that he had uh, in Bellator or something like that.
Yes.
But for him, and I'm really happy that now people know his first name, not just his last name.
Yes, yes. Faraz Sahabi's legendary for whoever doesn't know, whoever's a new MMA fan. Faraz Sahabi is a legendary coach out of Canada. Um, mostly known, firstly known for being Georges St-Pierre's corner, and he has a lot of the Canadian fighters in his gym.
Yeah,
TriStar Gym is what they call it. So I think if you have Georges St-Pierre and as somebody who was there from the beginning, that's an unbeatable bar. You said it yourself. In your opinion, he's the best ever. And so, that's a tough bar to match. And it's just like, in basketball, Kobe Bryant, one of the greatest ever, his dad, Joe Bean Bryant, he wasn't he wasn't one of the greatest. So it's one or the other. You're not gonna have the greatest after and the greatest and the greatest. I mean, we saw with Khabib and Islam that depending on how close they are in a time frame, that is possible. um, but I want to ask you about your upbringing, right? You're from a small town. The small town's name is
good luck.
Rimouski.
Yes,
Rimouski, right?
yes.
From Rimouski to the bright lights, what did growing up in that small town mean to you as an up and comer?
Oh, man, I'm so proud of that. I'm from Rimouski, but it's deeper than that. I'm from a little village. It's called Saint Narcisse of Rimouski. It's very, very, it's tiny. It's like a sixth street,
Mm,
800 people over there. It's very, very small, but I'm really proud of being, from there. I try to represent my village around the world. I once I already asked to Bruce Buffer to say that Patrick Cote from Saint Narcisse of Rimouski, and he said, "Fuck that, bro. It's Quebec or Montreal. You have to choose, man." I said, "Okay, okay, sorry, man." But you know what? The thing is, if if a guy like me that was from a little place like that you're not supposed to become a big star. I was I got uh, I was with only with my mother. Very very or we didn't have a lot of money. So the thing is, he was building. I think my character was building like uh the will I have to say that what, fuck it, I want to do it, and nobody will say me that I can't do it. And I think that's the difference between George and I. George is my friend since 30 years. Um, for me, he's Superman. He's the greatest ever. But it's hard for normal people to recognize themselves in George. It's easy to recognize yourself in me because where I'm from, I wasn't, you know, I want to say the same thing. I wasn't a great athlete. I was a great fighter. That's a big difference. George is a pure athlete. He's a Mustang. He's a horse. You know what I mean? So I think it's easier for anybody to recognize themselves uh, on me than George. And I think that's why I have a really close relationship with my fans and with the people here, because man, I can be your neighbor and you don't know what I'm doing. So that's it.
I mean, George, he looks more fit now than he did when he was fighting.
Oh,
He
he is.
he makes me feel like I'm losing weight. Honestly, when I hear about his fat, and I'm like, when I watch George St-Pierre do it, I'm like, did it, you know? But I mean, growing up, did you get into a lot of fights? You said you were a good fighter, not a good athlete. Was it a rough town, that small town?
Not at all. I'm always said that about fighting. That was just trying to tomorrow will be better than today. That was fighting, grinding to be more happy every day. Um, I always been in the sport. I was a soccer player when I was young, very high level soccer player. I played for the national team when I
Wow.
was a junior. And when I joined the army at 18. And when I joined the army, I started to do boxing in the army, and I got that very, very fast. And I fell in love with combat sport. Never fought in bar, never fought in the street. It's just I was just I don't know. I'm not a violent person, but I was just man. I got into that sport. I wanted to become the, the best athlete, but best fighter as possible, the more complete, well-rounded guy in that business. And yeah, that's the thing. You know, it's very different now than before, because before there was a lot of bad boys. There was a lot of
Yeah.
not a really great guys that was doing fighting, and there was calling extreme fighting and not mixed martial art. It's a big difference. For me, it's a big difference because before there was like fighters doing extreme fighting. Now it's athletes doing mixed martial art. It's a huge difference in my hair, and what it means, what the sport means right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. Who gave you the Predator nickname?
Oh man, I was so bad when I started that. So when I started to train with my first team in Quebec City, that was a team of Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. Um, I wanted to be good all the time. I wanted to be and after session, I was asking all the time a new partner, hey, you want to do another role? Want to do another role? And they were like, man, you're like a predator. You want another prey. You want to prey all the time. You want something. And it's not the most original one, but it's stick with me. When I started that, I wasn't taking that very seriously, and I was saying to my manager, I said, "Man, I love Rocky, I love Apollo. I think I'm gonna take like the Master of Disaster." And my manager was like, "No, you don't do that, man. We're gonna find us another one."
So you're talking. You said about how you were always striving to be better and always looking for something to kill, essentially. So that's why they started calling you the Predator. What is three habits as a up and coming martial artist that you would give as advice to an up and comer?
The entourage is so important. Having great people around you, because I had a lot of success in my career. I have a big down, and I was able to get back on top every time because I had a great people around me. So when I fought for the title in 2008, I had a lot of people around me, and 2 years after, in 2010, the UFC kicked me out. Before in 2012, I get back in the UFC, but in 2010 they kicked me out, and I saw the look in the eyes of people around me that I wasn't a UFC fighter anymore. So, but the real guys, the real people that I was trusting, it's a small circle that you have to build. You have to build that circle, because when everything's going well, there's no problem. But it's gonna be bad one day, and you have to build this tight circle, especially in that sport, because this sport it's not a sport of There's not a lot of guys who are faithful uh, towards their team. You know, if it's not going well, they're going to some other team. It's never their fault. It's never our fault. Athletes, no, it's never our fault. It's always the fault of the team or teammate or something like that. It's always like that. So build a really tight circle around you. Uh, Train. It's not sexy, but it is. You know, I always say that. Success coming with work. And the best example, it's me. Because there's a lot of guys who have so much talent in me, and they will never fight for the title fight because skills and talent, it's not everything in life. You need the will, you need to work, you need to have, you have to be stubborn, you have to be selfish a little bit, thinking about yourself in that sport. But you have to work, man. You have to work, and you have to listen to everybody. Even today, I'm a BJJ black belt. A white belt's gonna come to me and gonna say, "Hey, maybe you can try that on that position." I said, "For sure, man. I'm gonna try it. If it's not gonna, if it's not working, doesn't matter. I'm gonna put that in trash at the end of the day. It doesn't. But that's why I became good because I was taking advice of everybody. Everybody I was taking, and some wasn't good, some was good, but at the end of the day, I think it's you have to you have to listen. You have to listen to everybody, and especially people who got there before you. The thing is, right now, young guns of Canadian Fire, they're so much better than me, but they don't have the experience. And you can buy experience, you can train experience. You have to live it. So, and you can compare the era. You can compare today and when I was fighting. You can do that. But I know what you need to go on top because I've been there, I wasn't there, and I went back there. So I know exactly what you need. If you want to listen, good for you. If not, doesn't matter.
So keeping a strong circle, training consistently, and letting go of your ego. The first thing you said, keeping a strong circle. It's interesting you said that actually, because in '08, you fought Anderson in Chicago, and Anderson had an interview with Andre Ward where he said that's what kept him going throughout his career was his inside circle because they protected him from all the bullshit outside. And that it was interesting for you to mention that.
And
Um,
especially at that time, 2008, the UFC was fucking rocket. That was very, very popular, and it was, remember, he had Burger King on his shirt. Sponsors at that time was unreal. We made so much money with sponsors at that time.
wow.
Before the Reebok era,
Yeah.
and especially the guy like him, that was like everybody wanted a piece of Anderson Silva. Everybody wanted.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's good that you said that he's very his circle around him protecting.
Yeah. And it makes a lot of sense. Um, if you had today's, you know how today the UFC, they have Performance Institute in multiple countries. They have one in Mexico City. I think they have one in Shanghai, obviously Vegas. If you had that available to you in your career, those kind of sports sciences, what do you think the ceiling for you would be?
Uh Maybe I have more knowledge, faster. Um, because you know what, when I started in 2004 in the UFC, I went back. I joined the UFC in 2004. you know, we didn't know really how to train well. We was doing like sparring 4 times a week. Receiving punches in my head like crazy. That's exact that what what we knew at that time. And nutrition and taking care of body and stuff like that. We didn't know that. We didn't have that knowledge because that was a still new like kind of sport. Um, but like I said, it's hard to compare the era, because I think even that company wasn't there at that time, you know, trying to trying to build that to give a service to the fighters and something like that because that wasn't popular like today.
I had a question here written for you. but I think I already know the answer. I wanted to know, do you still love MMA? But obviously, it looks like you really do.
Oh yeah, I was a fan before. I was a fan during, and I'm still a fan, and that's why I think I'm still commentating the fight after 17 years. You know, I can. I think everybody who's watching me, who's listening to me talking about that sport, can feel that I'm passionate about that sport. And that sport. You know, I wrote a book, a French book about that sport too. You know, just explaining what is it, what is it to be inside the octagon, what is the relationship between the fighters inside the octagon that people don't understand, people can't see. You can feel it, even if you are on the front row. You can't understand what's going on between two guys inside the cage. It's very unique. And Yeah, I'm still in love with that sport. I don't miss it. I don't miss fighting, but I will always miss the feeling that that sport gave me all the time. And and that's why my last fight, I knew that was my last fight, and I didn't say it to anybody that was my last fight. I didn't want to share that those last moments with anybody. So my last wake up, my last walking to the octagon, the last time Bruce Buffer was saying my name, every last time I had that night, that was for me. So I didn't share those last moments with anybody because nobody didn't knew. My wife didn't knew it. My wife, and after that, you know, I called her. I said, "Listen," and she said, "Hey, that's good. That's okay. You know, you own that to yourself. That's good. I fully understand. I understand that." So that's why I think now, you know, I I did live those moments. I remember that. I have a great souvenir in my head, and I'm really happy that I didn't fight too long. You know, I did 15 years of that sport. I did everything that exists in that sport. You know, I fought in the main event, title fight. I did tough. I coached tough.
Yeah.
I mean, I fought around the world. I mean, at the end, when I fought Cerrone, that was like a pivot fight. I was like, if I beat Cerrone, I'm good for another run at the title, and it didn't happen. So I was like, okay, one more fight, and you know, I'm healthy. I did prepare my active career, so I'm good. So, yep.
You mentioned coaching, right? You coaching on Tough. It was a interesting season. Canada versus Australia. It's called Tough Nations. How was that experience like compared to being a contestant?
Oh, so much easier. That was but it's depend. Um, it was very different. You know, the best thing that was like you know, UFC was renting a fucking mansion for us, you know, and so we could go out and just living our life. We're not stuck in a house. But that was fun, man. That was fun. And you know, I had a great guys on my team too, that I'm still close today. And you know, especially Ovio Ben Mercier. And you know, that was pretty good. And the first thing I said when I went to the locker room to those guys, I said, listen, I'm not here for me. You know, I don't have anything to prove to anybody. You know, I fought for it all already. Everybody know who I am. My coach is a world champion of jiu-jitsu. My wrestling coach went to the Olympic in Beijing. We don't care to be here for us. We're here for you guys. So that's why I think we had a lot of success because our our work over there was really for those guys. And you know, we told them right away.
I wanted to know, when you see fans in passing, what's the number one career highlight that they talk about?
About my career,
Yeah.
man, that for sure the title fight. It's like it's for us in Canada. It's like playing for the Stanley Cup of our sport. It's the top of it's it's the top of the achievement in that sport. But you know, a lot of people talk to me about my first fight in the UFC, how crazy it was to fight Tito Ortiz on 4 days notice. This guy was on my screensaver. My dog was the name of my dog was Tito. Actually, a year before I fought Tito. It was Tito because Tito was one of my idol, and in the sport, there's one quote that sometimes you said, it's just a quote, it will never happen, but it's like, train yourself, enough that your uh idol become your rival. And that time when I was on the octagon, he was jumping, he wanted to kill me. I was like, that's fucking nice, man. That's great. I was enjoying that moment so much. And I didn't win the fight, but I won the night because everybody was talking about me after and not, the victory of Tito. And even after 15 years of that career, the video there of presentation of me when I was fighting before, the walk in, they were showing still image of that fight.
Hmm.
So it's kind of like of build my personality in the business, and yeah, that was crazy, man. That was a crazy moment.
That is a crazy moment. Guys, what he's talking about happened 20 years ago. So, this guy has accomplished everything, he does everything. You're also in real estate?
No, I was owner of a gym for 5 years. Not anymore. But now I have a couple of company left and right on construction, but
Nice, nice.
not
Hey,
real estate.
congratulations on an amazing career. Congratulations on a great life. Hope to talk to you again sometime. And is there anything you want to leave the fans with?
Man, you know what? If you write me on my social media, I will answer you. I answer to everybody. It's if you take time to write me, even if you insult or something like that, I will for sure. I will get you an answer. I don't care. If you take time to write to me, I will write it back. So I'm very available, and the thing is, uh, I want people to remind. It's kind of cocky what I'm gonna say that, but I say that I want people to remind that I was always a guy from a people, blue collar. That's who I am. And if I was able to do that on the biggest organization in the world, I think it's possible for anybody.
Well, you guys got the message. Thank you, Patrick. Guys, thank you for watching Never Made Weight. Patrick Cote, thank you so much. I really appreciate it, bro.
Hey, by the way, I always made weight. By the way,
I didn't.
all right, thank you.
Wearing a T-shirt that says "Never Made."
I believe him. I think he's telling the truth.